accident, you know it's no walk in the park. Car repairs, medical bills, and lost time from work all add up. And if the insurance company isn't paying their fair share, you have to cover the rest, even if it wasn't your fault. That's why you need an advocate. Call us today, and we'll do everything we can to get you moving again. Come on.
You deserve clear, risk-free advice to help get you back on your feet. You deserve an advocate.
This is The Monty Show, the truth in sports talk streaming. When you want unbiased opinions about your favorite team without the spin, all you have to do is find The Monty Show, streaming live and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. And now, here's Monty.
Hey, The Monty Show. Happy Thursday, August 29th. College football is here. Thankfully, college football kicks off tonight on The Monty Show. That's always presented by The Advocates. TheAdvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. Every single day on this show, I tell you, if you were hurt at work, do not hesitate. Get to The Advocates. Online, you can chat with an injury attorney, a workman's comp, a workplace injury expert at theadvocates.com, and it won't cost you a dime. That's the best part about it. You never reach into your pocket to pay the advocate. See, because you don't pay unless and until they win your case, so you have nothing to lose. Reach out to the best. When you need that, when you got to lift that feeling, you know, when something bad happens and there's dread and you don't feel good about it and you're insecure about, am I going to keep my job? How am I going to pay my rent or my mortgage? Let the advocates take all that off your shoulders. They'll give you your peace of mind back. Sleep well. Theadvocates.com. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. A lot to get to. Thankfully, we have football tonight. Stoked to see the Utah Utes. And I know it's only Southern Utah, and I know that it is not a huge matchup. It's not a conference game. It's just week 0, 1, 0, 1 and stuff. But it's Cam Rising and it's Brant Kuithe, and it's really an important moment in time for this Utah Utes football team. Excited. We'll preview that game coming up in about an hour. I would also remind you, Utah is a 38.5-point favorite on a 54-point number. I don't know if when I say that, you understand what that means. Utah is favored to win by 38.5 points. And they think the total will be, let's call it 55. So if you do some quick math on that, if they're to cover that, they win by 39. Right? Is Southern Utah going to score 16 points?
Probably not.
That's pretty remarkable. That's a huge number. I'd also remind you that our good friends in Boulder are only 9.5-point favorites at home against South Dakota State. So 2 big games. I truly cannot think of sitting here. I truly cannot think of another coach in this country. Ryan Day, pick the coach. Mario Cristobal. I cannot think of another coach in this country that's got a hotter seat than Deion Sanders right now. Like, I think, and I don't mean hot seat as in he's going to get fired. I mean, there is so much pressure on Deion Sanders to win. I don't know that anybody else has this much pressure.
Certainly. And I think that, starting your season out, with this game tonight, like, obviously, you come out and lose tonight, that's going to be a really rough look for you and your team, especially after, all the noise about, essentially replacing your entire starting, 5 guys up front on the offensive line, all the stuff with the media. Like, you've got a lot of, pressure and media attention and eyeballs on the program right now. And I hesitate to say that this is a must win, but it would be nice.
Oh, it's a must win. It's a must win. In South Dakota State, for those of you who don't know, is a powerhouse. They've got a prolific defensive front. They get after the quarterback's ass. They have a great quarterback of their own. They can't cover, or I don't believe that they'll be able to cover Colorado. They struggle in the secondary. We'll talk a lot about that. There's no doubt Deion can't lose this game tonight. It's in Boulder, and it's one of those games where, dude, you picked a real opponent. This is not a cupcake game. This is not the sewing needle manufacturing school of
Do you believe?
technical institutions and stuff. This is a real program. So we'll talk about that. But need to start the show with a lot of news. And I think, granted, the Southern Utah game, the North Dakota State, Colorado game, we're going to get to that. The mighty Lindenwood, Kansas game, Lindenwood. Lindenwood, North Dakota State.
Stay hard.
I think there's a big, if Prime was playing Lindenwood, what would the line be?
A lot more.
Well, he's playing North Dakota State. And not to belabor the point, because I just said we'll get back to that in a minute, but are you surprised that they're only a 9.5-point favorite? I understand. North Dakota State is, they're a powerhouse. That's a really good program. They're expected to compete for a national championship. Are you 9.5 points at Folsom Field in Boulder on a 60.5-point number? So you think that North Dakota State's going to put up points?
Oh yeah, I think that this is a close game, and I think a lot of people think it's a close game. I think a lot of people, assume that North Dakota State's going to cover that number.
Ooh, we'll see. I'm excited about it. Yes, the Red Raider, absolutely. Welcome back, football. Welcome back. I am here for it. But some really important business we need to get to before we get to the matters on the field tonight. The Big 12 has big plans, and I told you yesterday and really all week we've been working on this UConn story, really trying to uncover the genesis of it, because the timing has always felt suspect to me. Like, why now? Why is this coming out now? I've been digging on that a little bit, and I've been trying to figure out, what does UConn unlock that Gonzaga does not? Because it makes, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, much more sense to add Gonzaga to this conference than it does UConn. So we may have unlocked that equation yesterday when we talked to a source close to the situation who told us that the Big 12's pursuit of UConn and adding UConn ahead of anything else and everybody else is directly tied to their grand plan if and when the ACC melts down. Because I was told yesterday by sources close to the situation that the Big 12 feels confident that if they add UConn, that they will then be able to add Gonzaga, which they believe, and really I think the important phraseology that was used to me yesterday was, they have been led to believe, the Big 12 has, that if they can get UConn and Gonzaga, that Duke and North Carolina are much more on the table. Is that likely? We can have that debate. Does UNC ultimately end up in the Big 12? We can have that debate. But my sources are telling me that the Big 12 is being as aggressive as they can be with UConn, because they believe it begins a process of knocking over the dominoes. If they add UConn, they believe that they would have much more leverage to add Gonzaga. And if and when the ACC comes apart, they believe that it gives them far more ability to add Duke, North Carolina. I was also told yesterday that this is where Florida State comes into play, because as I've told you on this show, Florida State, in fact, values their basketball product, and the Big 12 values Florida State football. So we've wondered aloud about the rationale and what is the common sense of Florida State coming to the Big 12. Well, if you add UConn, Gonzaga, Duke, North Carolina, I'm told the other school that the Big 12 has their sights set on is Virginia. If you add those universities, it seems like a much more plausible scenario to get Florida State. Now, is all of this likely to happen? I don't think we're at the point of, is it likely or not? I think what you are watching with this UConn situation is Brett Yormark and say what you will about Endeavor's involvement with the Big 12 and in college athletics. They're certainly a power player in the grand scheme of things. I think there's no question about that anymore. I think when you look at the Big 12 and their partners at Endeavor, and you look at what UConn represents, I don't think there's any doubt that if UConn joins this conference, especially if they do not bring football at the onset, because again, I think it is a really critical point that has been brought to me multiple times by multiple sources, that UConn football is a loss leader. And more than half of Big 12 administrators have said they do not favor subsidizing UConn football in the Big 12. And that is a really important point, because I think if you can get UConn, even if it's basketball and every other sport, into the Big 12 in the near future, which seems likely for the 2026 season, it is far more clear, I think, the path to, I think, the Big 12's ability to add UConn, Gonzaga, Duke, North Carolina, Florida State, and Virginia becomes a much easier path to that ultimate outcome. And I don't know that we've ever been in a place where we've been able to say that. But from what I was told yesterday by sources close to the situation, the urgency surrounding UConn, the why right now answer is it begins that process of pushing over the dominoes. And Jake, I think if the Big 12 is able to accomplish this, I think it is absolutely a changing, ever-evolving situation for the Big 12 that puts them by far, and it's not close, on top of the college basketball world.
Absolutely. And I think that, that's the key for the Big 12. We've heard for so long that, basketball and football are their own divisions within the Big 12, that they're their own separate, business entities, if you will. And I think Brett Yormark sees an opportunity here where the Big 12 maybe is not the football conference that the Big 10 and the SEC are, but the Big 12 certainly could be a better basketball conference than either of those two. And so what is Brett Yormark doing here? He's positioning himself to be ready in case the ACC melts down, and positioning the conference to be ready and be prepared to make the most of that opportunity. We've seen this before where, the Big 10 with the Pac-12 situation said, hey, we don't want to be seen to be raiding that conference. But as soon as that conference melted down, what did we get? We got the Big 10 was prepared. The Big 12 was prepared. So this is hardly the first time we've seen behavior like this, where there's smoke out east and the Big 12 or any other conference is preparing itself. And I think this concept of the Big 12, trying to latch onto this opportunity to be, to create what would certainly be the best basketball conference in our country and in college athletics, it is a brilliant one. This is right up Brett Yormark's alley of, hey, I see an opportunity. I think that we can go and attain that opportunity. And all we have to do is figure out how to work through the UConn situation. And if we can do that, then we up our chances very much with other major brands in the landscape. The UNC piece of it, I think people like to speculate a ton on UNC. Hey, isn't UNC a Big 10 school? Isn't UNC this or that? I don't think we know what people's, thought process is on where they'd like to go until we're truly in the moment. Obviously UNC in the Big 10 is a nice fit. It makes a lot of sense, but also UNC is a basketball school traditionally. You're telling me that UNC wouldn't value being in the best basketball conference in the country at that point? So I think there's a lot of, unknown in terms of how schools like UNC would view this, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Dukes and the UNCs and these other powerhouse basketball programs would be excited about this.
I think the other part of it, before we get to what's likely, because I think what's likely is very different than what the plan is or what the hope is, let's say. But I think one of the other things that I find so fascinating, and having this conversation yesterday, and the particular person that I spoke to yesterday is very well placed. And I think it's interesting that somebody in that position agrees that the ACC is very much where the Pac-12 was when USC and UCLA left. And when USC, usurped everybody else in that conference and left for the Big Ten. You look at where the Pac-12 would be today if they had added Big 12 schools. We would be having a very different conversation. I bring that point up because I think Brett Yormark is acutely aware that you cannot let things happen for you. You cannot let things happen to you. You have to do things to solidify yourself and improve your situation. And I think if you look at the brands that we're talking about, I think UConn and Gonzaga has had an open invitation to this conference for at least 18 months. At least 18 months.
I like Gonzaga.
And they have not accepted that invitation at this point. And I think it is because they are waiting for things to happen for them. And I think it's a mistake if you're Gonzaga because your window will shrink. But I also think if you're UConn, you are absolutely in the right position being proactive. And I think UConn understands you have to strike while the iron's hot. But I also think the Big 12 understands that as well. And if you add UConn, I think it opens up conversations across every ACC territory. There is no doubt about that. Because I also am a passionate believer that Virginia and UNC are likely, if that conference melts down, to go to the Big Ten. I think it is as simple as that. I just don't believe that North Carolina, which is an academic institution of the highest order, would partner itself up in the Big 12. I have heard that for over a year. We've been talking about this. I don't believe that UNC has any other destination but the Big Ten. That's what I've been told. I've had those conversations. They value academic partnerships, but they also value their relationship with Duke. And I can tell you, and I think we've had the exclusive on Duke to the Big 12 for months and months now. I can tell you that Brett Yormark and his emissaries have had real, tangible conversations with people in the ACC, including Duke. And I can tell you that there is a framework that Duke will operate in. And if you add Gonzaga and UConn, Duke will have very serious conversations with you.
Well, it gives them something to be excited about, right? I mean, it gives
Absolutely.
them, it gives them a reason to want to engage with you, because at that point, now you're not talking about having to justify whether the Big 12 would be the best basketball conference in the country or not. It would very clearly be head and shoulders above everybody else.
It would not even be a conversation.
Yeah.
And I think you look at Duke, and I think it is the only avenue to get North Carolina if you're the Big 12. And that's why I think it's not accidental that the language that was used to me by this particular source was this is a plan that is very much like a row of dominoes. UConn's that first domino, Gonzaga's that second domino, and then a phone call with Duke is that third one. And if you are able to get Duke, and I believe, from what I've been told, the Big 12 believes that they can get Duke. But they are going to strengthen their position with UConn and Gonzaga first. I think that is their plan. Now, does Gonzaga play ball? I don't know how you don't. If UConn's in this conference, when you add it to what is already the deepest basketball conference in the country, I don't know how Gonzaga says no. Let's pretend they say yes. You get UConn, you get Gonzaga. You pick up the phone and you call Duke. That's a hard conversation for Duke to turn down.
Mm-hmm.
And if Duke calls North Carolina, that's a hard conversation for North Carolina to turn down.
Especially when you consider at that point the ACC would not be in a great place. I mean, obviously we would be having conversations about, exit strategies.
Well, at that point, I think the ACC is not going to exist.
Yeah.
But I also think the relationship between UConn and the ACC is very interesting, because it is Oklahoma State in the Pac-12, as it was pointed out to me yesterday. UConn could be in the ACC today and chose not to do that. There was an absolute conversation and courtship there. They chose not to do that. And I think wisely so. I think the writing's always been on the wall in the ACC. I think most people felt like we were going to, by now, what is it, August 29th, 2024, that we would have been to 2 conferences already, and maybe the Pac-12 is still around. Well, all of that changed over the last 2 years. The moment that USC made that announcement, that fateful announcement 2 years ago, I guess at this point, that they were leaving the Pac-12 to go to the Big Ten, that's when this entire game changed. And I think the hiring of Brett Yormark, that's when this entire game changed. His relationships across entertainment and sports, that's what changed this game. And I think when you look at this situation, if you are the Big 12, I think you are operating at a very high level. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. And Brett Yormark is exactly what a conference commissioner should be. Proactive, forecasting, looking ahead, taking advantage of market opportunities and conditions. That's exactly what this is. And as I told you all those months ago, Brett Yormark doesn't value the Big 12. Oh, the truck stop flyover conference, bro. Let's go to Buc-ee's. That's not how Brett Yormark looks at the Big 12.
Right.
And I think that is huge because he doesn't see what the Big 12 is in 2024. He sees what the Big 12 can be in 2034. He has a vision of what the Big 12 can be in the future, and he is going to operate in an effort and in a manner and a fashion to get him to that vision. And the other thing I think is so important here is his constituents and membership are all on board with it. And why? How could you not be?
Yeah, I mean, how is it not something you're excited about? How is it not something that you're, absolutely vetting out, pursuing, chasing? Like, how is it not something that you're going after? I mean, look, I think the Big 12 has a lot of haters. A lot of people, out east, hate on the Big 12 and say that the Big 12 is like somehow, a lesser conference or, whatever the argument is. I'm sure we've got people today who are hating on the Big 12 in the comments section. But the reality is the Big 12 is the third best conference in our country. I mean, obviously it's the SEC and the Big 10 kind of playing on their own level right now. But I would take the Big 12 over the ACC 7 days a week. I think the Big 12 is a deeper basketball conference. I think on the football field, what are we even talking about? The ACC, if you're going to sit here today and try and make the case that the ACC somehow is a better conference on the football field, I don't know what you're looking at.
And again, I think football plays a big part of this. I think the fact that Duke and North Carolina, what do you say about Duke and North Carolina football? I mean, Drake May, who, breaking news in the NFL, Drake May is not the starter in New England, by the way. Wisely so. Jacoby Brissett announced as the starter today. Drake May just went at the top of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
You have multiple quarterbacks now. I can't even say his name without vomiting. Mitch Trubisky and Drake May. God, that sucks. You're looking at Daniel Jones. Like, they're good. They put guys in the NFL. They're not great. And if you're Duke or North Carolina, and I say to you, you can win a championship in football or basketball, you're probably still taking football.
Yeah. Those
are basketball schools. And I think if you look at Duke and North Carolina, would you rather have Duke and North Carolina football or UConn football? Would you rather have Duke and North Carolina?
Right.
But my point is, the Super League takes all of this away. And it's why, again, and I know I'm just some jackalope that has, trust me, bro. But again, I just say to you, basketball is becoming more and more of a priority when it comes to revenue because of the cost of football participation. If it is, and I said this the other day and got railed for it, but if it is in fact true, I told you, a source of mine the other day told me football is going to cost universities $200 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a massive number. A massive number. And people still don't believe that basketball is an incredibly important part of an athletic department.
And I think we haven't even gotten to the fact that they're going to expand the tournament, right? So there's going to be more opportunity for premier basketball conferences to get more shares.
And in the Big 12, If you can monopolize preseason made-for-TV games, why wouldn't you do that? Because if you add Duke and Carolina, and part of the conversation I had yesterday, what does Duke and Carolina do for you? Well, it gives you Duke, Carolina, Kansas, Gonzaga, Houston. Look at the brands. Look at the brand. The preseason, you don't have to include. Who else do you have to include? Who else? You can go to Madison Square Garden. You can go to the finest basketball palaces in this country and put on a Big 12 preseason showcase. You can now tell yourself, without question, we are the best basketball brand in the country in the Big 12. Now it's bigger than Rucker Park. Now it's bigger than Mexico. Right? We're talking about a game-changing move by the Big 12, and I'm here for it. I know that we're the Pac-12 channel and the SEC channel and everything else you guys accuse us of being fat Mormon that's going to die soon. Totally get it.
Right.
What I'm telling you is that this is a win-win. Let's excuse me. Let's talk about what's likely to happen. Here's what I think is likely to happen. I think it is not likely you get Duke in North Carolina. What I think now is likely to happen, I think you get UConn. I think you get Gonzaga. I think you get Miami, Florida State, Louisville, and one of the Virginia schools. I think if you can add Virginia to this conference, fantastic. I also think Pitt becomes a very interesting university.
Well, obviously you've got a comfortability there with West Virginia.
And it's a no-brainer regionally. But what I think is likely, I think, I have to believe that Florida State, on some level, at some point, is going to have to understand who they are and where they are, because their ego is incredibly inflated. So obviously we have to wait for this lawsuit, and let's see what happens with Clemson and Florida State. But what I think is likely to happen, I think the ACC melts down on some level, because when guys like Brett Yormark and people like Endeavor are involved, they're not spinning their wheels and wasting their time
For no reason.
There is a belief, from what I was told yesterday, inside the Big 12 that they can pull it off. I think what's likely to happen, Duke and North Carolina go to the Big 10. I think that those two institutions, it's the one knock that I have on the Big 12. Academically speaking, you're not a great conference.
Yeah. There's no getting away from that.
It
is what it is.
It is what it is.
It's why when Utah joined the conference, you heard all that Big Ten smoke.
Utah, Colorado, I think the Arizona schools bring you really good education and partnership opportunities. But again, it's the state of Texas. It is the Oak State. Like you need these institutions to raise their bars academically, because I believe if you were the Pac-12 and the ACC melted down, okay, we'd be having a different conversation. But I think if I said to the people on Tobacco Road, hey, do you want to partner with, boy, I almost undersold the lead. Part of the conversation yesterday, does Duke and North Carolina want to be seen to be doing business with Michigan? Legitimate part of the conversation I had yesterday.
Yeah, I would say, considering the fact that if you do some flipping around the internet yesterday, that some of the details are reportedly being leaked on what all is in this notice of allegations. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that schools like UNC and Duke, generally speaking, are not looking to be seen doing business with Michigan right now. That's just, I know that that's a hot take, but I don't think that I would be looking to be seen to be doing business with Michigan. I think that right now is kind of a flammable situation.
I think that is a very flammable situation. But here nor there, any way you slice it. If I said to Tobacco Road today, how would you like to be in business with Northwestern, USC, Oregon and Washington, two very good academic universities? Again, Northwestern in their car wash. The Ohio State. Absolutely. Where do I sign? That's, I mean, it's undeniable.
But I think
undeniable.
I think it fits in both cases, though. I would agree that Duke and UNC, you know, on its face, is a better fit in the Big Ten. It makes more sense.
No.
About that.
What do you say about Virginia schools? Virginia Tech and Virginia.
Well, I think Tech is a Big 12 school, and I think Virginia is a Big 10 school. And I think I only say that because I think Virginia's been prolific on the basketball side in the tournament over the last 10 years. They've had multiple appearances. They've had deep runs.
Put guys in the NBA. Like
Virginia's got a powerhouse basketball program. But Virginia, like, I'm a big believer when we look at these different examples, like whether it was the Pac-12 thing or this ACC thing now, you can look at a school and you can say, yeah, Miami feels like more of a Big 12 school, but they could be a borderline Big 10 school depending on how things shake out.
And I know that it grinds people when we talk about this academic stuff. And I don't know why it grinds people, but it feels like it pisses people off. It certainly did in the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I certainly believe that Duke and North Carolina that's the heartbeat of the ACC. Like, there's no
right. Yeah.
It's inarguable.
Well,
at this point.
And I think what's difficult, like look at how the ACC started the football season this year. There's no better example. Like, the ACC is a basketball
can't believe they
conference.
lost that game.
Yeah, and I think the reason I point that out is just to say that it's a basketball first conference, because when anytime your conference is in a position where, hey, our one hope loses their first game, and in all likelihood their season's over unless they somehow just run the table and DJ turns into a different guy.
Right.
Like, you're a basketball conference, and that's fine. But we're sitting here talking about the Big 12 positioning themselves to pick up, Louisville and Pitt and, all these different schools in the ACC. Like, it's no surprise. And again, I'm just telling you, the Big 12 is going to take advantage of it, and they're going to be the best basketball conference in the country because, again, the Super League is going to change the dynamic in football. So the Big 12, in my opinion, it no longer has to think about it in terms of, hey, how do we compete with the SEC and the Big 10? All you have to think about is, let's make sure we're making that money in basketball. And then, whoever in our conference can qualify for the Super League, which should be a good bit of the Big 12, frankly, we'll get into the Super League and we'll be good to go. Like, that's why they're doing this.
I just think that Duke and North Carolina are Big 10 teams. And I don't believe it's revenue driven. Obviously, the Big 10, the revenue box is checked, right? But if you're the Big 12, I would assume, and I mean, I wonder what you guys think, but I would assume that come 2031, you're going to be, I would have to assume that you're going to be an $80 million a year conference. If you're doing another TV deal. Now, it's interesting. I've been trying to understand what future TV deals look like. I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, that's a tough question right now.
Because TV money is not endless. You look at what's going on at ESPN and Disney. There's no more. You look at Warner Brothers Discovery, you look at CBS, like, there's no more endless fountain of cash just spewing all over the place for TV deals.
But I think that's why you need the made-for-TV preseason matchups in basketball. You have to have that stuff.
But I think you have to have that stuff so that you can have Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
So that you can have Phillips 66.
Aflac.
The big brands that you see spending money, they're the ones that are going to power this stuff. Because I think if you are, again, Warner Brothers Discovery, you don't have the money to go and buy the NBA. So Like you look at Turner, Warner Brothers Discovery, who are they talking to about a licensing deal right now? Live Golf. They're not talking to the NFL. They're not talking to the NBA. They're suing the NBA. But you look at the major players in TV, CBS, NBC, ABC, ESPN, and Disney. Their money's not endless. And so when 2031 comes around, what does that deal look like? Well, if you've got Duke and Carolina, Gonzaga and UConn, you're already a more valuable brand. But that's to Fox. Right? Because Fox is we're all aware at this point, Fox has the majority of the Big 12 basketball package.
Right.
So I don't think there's any doubt that Fox is going to buy that. There's no question. I don't think there's any doubt that ESPN and Disney, who have an incredible partnership with Brett Yormark, that relationship, again, I was told the other day, is rock solid. They're going to buy that. But for what cost? In 2031, is $80 million still? Is that still a lot of money per team, per school, rather?
I mean,
in 2031,
bro, it sounds ludicrous right now, but in 2031, who the
I
hell
don't know.
knows? I think
I don't know.
I think the other problem is there are a lot of college football fans and folks who feel like 2031 is far away, and by TV contract language, it's not far away at all. It's here. You're already talking about it. You're already saying, hey, like, by the time we get through, because remember, with the way TV contracts work, once you have 2 years left, you're starting that new negotiation. You're not going to let it get to, hey, we have a month left. You're
not playing the Pac-12
game.
game.
You're not going to get in danger the way the Pac-12 got in danger. So again, that's why I'm saying, like, when people are like, oh, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. The Super League is bullshit. Like, we're not, that's
watch
all
your
fake.
language.
Yeah, it's a family show. Like that's what we hear in the comment section all the time, both during the show and after the show. Everyone's like, oh, it's not real. It's fake. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, if it's so fake, then why is it that you're hearing head coaches talking about it? If it's so fake, why is it
Kyle Whittingham,
that guys like Kyle Whittingham are talking about it, and then
wait, get it right. Why is it that Kyle Whittingham is now parroting our language on this show when he's doing interviews on 365?
Yeah.
Talking about NFL models.
I mean, is it any coincidence that we talked about it and then a month later you've got Witt talking about it at Big 12 Media Days? Like, it's not a coincidence, dude.
No, it's not a coincidence.
So,
it's a foregone conclusion. And I think to put a bow on this and to reset it, because I see a bunch of people coming on, I bring up this TV number in 2031 because if you extrapolate and project forward, UConn joins basketball and other sports in 2026. UConn football joins in 2031. Oh, that's funny. That's the same time the Big 12 TV contract's up.
Oh.
So now, if you're at 40 million now, let's just use a baseline number. Every university in the Big 12 gets $40 million.
Right.
2031, let's project $80 million. Every university gets $80 million a year from the rights deal. Oh, that makes UConn football a lot more palatable. They can pay for themselves a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And then every university is getting a lot more money.
Well, and we know that the Big 12 and other conferences have already started talking about, hey, your performance is going to dictate how much of the share you get on an annual basis. Yeah. So, if you're adding, let's just go with what we know or what we've heard, which is UConn basketball until 2031, and then football is going to come into the picture. Okay, well, you're basically a half share school at that point. And then based on what your football program does, you obviously have the ability to earn more, but you're going to have to prove that your football program can go ahead and do that. So I think it's a very interesting, because UConn wouldn't be a Super League team on the football field. You're not, obviously.
I would agree with that.
You're not going to be a Super League team. So if UConn's not a Super League team on the football field.
Just remember, they're an independent.
Yeah.
The Big East doesn't have football. So you're an independent at this point. I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. And to reset all of this, if you're just hopping on the show, Sources told us yesterday that the Big 12, in fact, has a grand plan. And we've been trying to figure out, well, what's the urgency all of a sudden?
Why
What's
now
the
in the middle of
impetus?
summer?
Yeah, what's the impetus with UConn in August
Yeah.
to be adding them in 2026? Well, the impetus is now, if our sourcing is accurate, and I have no reason to believe it's not, the impetus is it's a domino effect. The Big 12, according to well-placed sources, I believe the Big 12 is looking to add UConn ASAP because they believe that will allow them to get Gonzaga. If they get Gonzaga, they believe that if and when the ACC melts down, that will give them access to Duke and North Carolina. If they get Duke and North Carolina, they also believe that they can get Florida State. And I think the big unknown here is, if they get Florida State, Duke, and North Carolina with UConn and Gonzaga, is that enough to pull Virginia? Remains to be seen. Again, what's likely? Probably not. But do you make plans based on what is likely or what you think you can, or do you shoot for the moon? In these situations, very clearly you're shooting for the moon.
Well, and I think if you shoot for the moon and you miss on Duke and UNC, let's say, but you settle on Miami, NC State, Tech, like, I mean, that's a pretty good, that's a pretty good supplement to what is already a great basketball conference.
And I think that if you shoot for the moon and you miss and you end up with, I think there is a really good chance they get Florida State. If all of this comes to fruition, I think Florida State, Miami, and again, I don't know why, and I have been guilty of this. A lot of people are underselling Louisville as a football and basketball brand.
Yeah.
I think Louisville would be a
solid.
huge get for the Big 12.
Yeah.
I think if you miss, let's say you miss Virginia, Duke, and Carolina. Okay, great. If you're able to get Virginia Tech, if you're able to get Florida State, Miami, Louisville, UConn, and Gonzaga, if you're able to add those universities to your league, you're still in a really good place.
Yes.
And I think, and this is the other part of it, I think that gets you an exponentially larger TV contract in 2031.
And I also think the other point I always like to make in these conversations, because again, this presumes that the ACC doesn't exist anymore.
It does.
And melts down. So if that's the case, I also think the point of, hey, the Big 12 again doesn't have to compete per se with the Big 10 and the SEC, right? Like, it's not like, hey, the Big 12 is looking to like supersede these two conferences, or it's more of a situation where because the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore, and then at that point the ACC wouldn't exist anymore, we have a 3-conference setup where everyone has a natural role.
Yeah,
where
100%.
The Big 12 slots in right underneath these two guys. Obviously the Big 12 schools would round out the Super League in football. And then I think the tournament, in terms of expansion, could expand into a really nice number. I don't know how many seeds you would expand to initially, but if you have a 3-conference setup, that makes expanding the tournament a much easier conversation at that point. There's less people at the table.
I think this is exactly what the Big 12 should be doing.
Yeah.
You cannot be the little brother and playing defense. That's not going to work. If you want to be the behemoth in the room, and if you want the respect that you believe you've earned, you got to take it. Nobody's going to give it to you. You got to take it. And I think that's exactly what the Big 12 is doing here. Are they wrecking the ACC? They're not. But I don't think there's any question that Brett Yormark and his partners at Endeavor are more than happy to look at all the members of the ACC on the edge of that cliff and push a couple over. Because this league is not far from imploding on itself, regardless of what happens in that courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
There is an avenue if you can get, and again, I think Notre Dame's a big part of it, because Notre Dame, if they're going to join a league, it's going to be the Big Ten, and the only reason they would do that is if the ACC melts down. In my opinion, I think if you are Brett Yormark and Endeavor, and you can secure a bag in 2031, the ACC is as good as gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion based on what I've been told and sources I've spoken to. I think that's the likely scenario. I think the ACC is going to struggle to unify. And I do think Endeavor is a big part of it. They're really good business people. And while nobody's told me that, my opinion is that Endeavor is working behind the scenes to put the Big 12 in a much, much better financial position,
Yes.
in a much better financial situation. And they are leveraging relationships, as Brett Yormark has done and is doing. I think the ACC is on the clock. I've never said that on this show before, but I feel like now this is the first time people in the right places are indicating that the ACC is on the clock.
I think the ACC thing too is like, if you're UNC and Duke, you're the biggest schools in that conference. You also probably have some fatigue from the conversation of, is our conference going to melt down or not? And we saw this dynamic play out in the Pac-12 where schools were tired of talking about, hey, is it going to melt down or not? Or what are we going to do? Like, schools want to, administrators of these big time brands want to be able to say, hey, yeah, our conference is strong. We're heading in this direction. This is what our money looks like. This is what we're working on. They don't want to dwell in this sort of rain cloud situation that is the ACC right now. So there's a ton of time left in this. There's, a lot of stuff that remains to be seen, but I'm just telling you, the Big 12 is going to be ready, and I would expect nothing less.
I don't think anymore that you can worry about perception versus reality. I think that the hard lessons that were learned in the Pac-12 are resonating today. And I think that Brett Yormark, who had a front row seat watching the Pac-12 meltdown, I think you either have it or you don't. And I think when 2031 gets here, you better have value. Because if you're going to go and you're going to sell yourself to ESPN, you better come with a really strong value position. And I think that's exactly what this is about.
Yeah.
Because we are watching the end of big money deals in television. There is no question about that. The days of, I think this Big Ten contract with Fox, NBC, and CBS, obviously most of that money is on Fox's books. Equity partners ownership in the Big Ten network, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we ever see $100 million per school of a TV deal again, just on a straight media rights deal. I don't think we'll see that. I look at what's going on with Warner Brothers Discovery. I look at the way that Disney is having to push top down. I mean, you look at the restructuring that happened inside ESPN this week.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Well, I also think that, college football tends to take things from the NFL on a pretty regular basis.
Absolutely.
And the NFL this week, the owners in the NFL voted to approve 10% ownership from private equity firms.
Equity stakes.
And I think when you see things like that in the NFL, you can expect that to follow into college football. And so to your point about, hey, these current TV deals that we're seeing are going to be the last like behemoth, crazy number TV deals. They're going to be the last ones because private equity is going to come in and bridge that gap.
And you guys all told me how crazy I was. Again, fat Mormon guy who's dying soon. That's not really a Mormon. SEC fan,
Utah fan,
yeah. BYU fan,
right.
Fat BYU fan,
Gundy hater,
mullet hater.
Yeah.
When I told you, hey, you're going to see things you're not going to like. You're going to see corporate badges on fields.
Mm-hmm.
No. We have corporate logos on the field. What have I told you about helmet stickers?
Yep.
What do we have on helmets now?
Yep.
The mullet.
Now,
right?
I don't agree with how they're doing that, but we do have it.
I mean, how are you going to scan that QR code?
Like,
just
seriously.
asking for a friend. I think practice jersey patches. I think stadium deals. I think this is who we are now.
Yes.
This is who we are now. You want to pay players? This is who we are now. You want to have NCAA football 24? This is who we are now.
Yes.
And I think this is why Endeavor and Brett Yormark, everybody looks at Endeavor as the devil. They're not the devil. They're a conduit to massive revenue generation. And that's what's keeping the future of the Big 12 illuminated. So, all right, enough of us, more of you. The comment section on a daily basis on this show is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. And listen, you guys, I'm just, again, fat old Mormon guy that's not a Mormon who's going to die soon, right?
Dilly.
You know, I love the guys at Prize Picks, and I think they love me because I woke up this morning, and I think we all know that when you are a healthy, red-blooded, full of testosterone male, in the morning,
Stay hard.
Things are happening.
I'm so bricked up right now.
And then you open your Prize Picks app and you see a Caleb Williams promo for week 1 of more or less half a yard passing.
Yeah.
And you understand that the guys at Prize Picks watch this show. And you understand these sons of britches,
And stuff.
they get it.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, half a yard passing, week 1 in the NFL. What are you waiting for?
Stay hard.
What are you waiting for? Cam Rising, 3 million yards passing tonight. What are you waiting for?
Obvi.
What are you waiting for? This is the time of year when Prize Picks is unbelievable. Use the promo code Monty. Right there, you see it. Download the app. It's in the link in the description on our YouTube channel. Hello, everybody on the X platform, Facebook, TikTok. Hello. Get on board. Hook it up. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty. You deposit $5. $5. They're going to give you 50 more. It is the single best daily fantasy promo I've ever seen. You deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more. Use the promo code Monty, M-O-N-T-Y. That's how you hook it up. And it is really an easy proposition. Won again last night, thanks to Shohei and his dog.
Yeah.
I do not like wagering on Shohei because I feel bad like I'm enabling his addiction.
Great gambler.
The great gambler. I don't like wagering on the great gambler, but I did. And I would just like to thank the great gambler for his contributions to my pocketbook.
Mm-hmm.
Him and his little dog too.
How about that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Shohei.
Thank you, Toto.
I thought it was amazing last night. Did you see Shohei's dog throughout the first pitch? Nobody cares. I thought it was animal
Did you
abuse.
see Dodger fan lining up for 7 hours outside of Chavez Ravine to get his bobblehead?
4.5
Come
was the
on,
number.
dude.
Hits, runs, and RBIs for Shohei the gambler last night. 2 hits, 3 runs, 1 RBI. That'd be 6.
Fucking A.
Daddy's a winner. Now, you want to talk about Cubs baseball? Let's talk about Cubs baseball. Because I did not bet on the Cubs yesterday. I did bet on Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
5.5 strikeouts, more or less. More. He got 6.
Boom.
Thank you. The Cubs won in impressive fashion. They scored 2 in the 7th, 3 in the 8th, 6 in the 9th to win 14-10. And then, of course, because
14-10.
14-10. Because Chaboy has been red hot. Of course, we bet the WNBA. I'd like to thank Katie Clark.
Yeah.
Points, rebounds, and assists. 24.5. I was nervous for a long time last night. 19 points, 5 boards, 5 dimes.
Yeah, cash money.
That's exactly right. 28.
Boom.
Daddy wins. 3 for 3. I've got golf today, more or less. Tour championship tees off. We've got college football tonight. Prize Picks, baby. Download the app. Use the promo code Monty. You deposit $5. They'll give you 50 more. Then go get the Caleb Williams promo.
Do it.
Half a yard, more or less. Caleb Williams. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. All right, let's get to your comments. First one in this morning. Bear down, Cats.
A player's program.
for $5. Good morning. Is the cost of to get good football players in college getting out of control? When does it top out? 12 needs to raise their ed level. It's been out of control for decades.
When does it top out? I mean, when does it slow down?
Never.
I don't think it's going to top out. I think that the price is just going to continue to go up.
We haven't even begun.
Yeah.
At this point. And as far as education goes, again, somebody explain, get your ass in the comments section. Somebody explain to me, why does it torque people so much that people like Duke, Carolina, obviously Utah, care so much more about education and education related dollars than they do about sports? I don't understand, why does that piss people off so much?
I have no idea.
Because I look at North Carolina is a really good example of this, as is Duke. Two institutions of higher education. They'd much rather be in business with, Northwestern, the brands in the Big Ten, even as damaged as Michigan is. USC, a phenomenal educational university. Then the brands in the Big 12 that lack AAU status, that are not the research institutions, that are not the educational related revenue generators that people like Stanford and Cal are. Do you guys really think that Duke and Carolina don't value Stanford and Cal as research institutions and AAU members? They absolutely do. I don't understand why it torques people so much.
Who knows?
I don't get it.
Yeah.
They'd rather have the best lecturers and professors in their science department than a 5-star quarterback from California.
I just don't think it's rocket science. These are institutions of higher learning, man. That's what they are first. It's student athlete, not athletic student. I mean, that there's a reason that's the label. Like, it's a school. You're going there to educate yourself, and the school happens to offer athletics to the 3% of its student body that are interested in playing sports. Like,
yeah, and I think the people that routinely rail the Big 12, I don't know why people, and we've always joked about the truck stop conference, the flyover conference,
right?
Oak State James is his odd fellatio-based obsession with SMU. Like, we've railed people from the Big 12 and stuff.
Right.
I don't understand why Brett Yormark, again, why does he grind people? Why do SEC fans hate Brett Yormark in the Big 12 so much?
Because I think SEC Big 10 fan has a power complex about their conference and their position in the conversation. And I'm just telling you, the Big 12 is not necessarily coming for those two conferences. That's not what it's about. What it's about is securing the Big 12's future, becoming the best basketball conference specifically in the country, and continuing to make more money. And I just don't see how that's bad for the general picture when you consider the fact that the Big 10 and the SEC have already taken this step. They already added the schools from a conference that melted down. So all the jackasses in the comments section saying the Big 12 is a terrible conference, and nobody would ever join their conference, or whatever it is today, your conference literally did the same thing. You literally took schools from a conference that melted down and bolstered your value. And now that the Big 12 is trying to do that, you're going to rip them. It's classic college football hypocrisy. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I don't know, because when I look at Endeavor, Endeavor is I'm looking at the companies in the Endeavor portfolio. You guys, things like the UFC, things like IMG, PBR, EuroLeague Basket, like, they're not some small operation.
Don't they have the WWE too?
I believe they do. Well, but I just ask again, why do people have such an absolute hatred for Endeavor? What sense does that make? Like, I don't understand that. And you look at the people they're in business with, I don't understand it. I don't understand. Like, do you understand the product that Endeavor touches? Everything. It's a huge advantage for anybody to be in business with Endeavor. And you have a guy in Brett Yormark whose entertainment background is phenomenal. Phenomenal. His entertainment background.
Yeah.
Why would he not bring in a company like Endeavor who's got ownership in professional sports already? Right? Like it is
It's a no-brainer.
It is absolutely the right thing for them to do. Whether it is their streaming operation, their licensing operation, their television impact, their unscripted impact, their ability to put on events, their relationships and their ability to leverage events regionally, nationally, globally. The hatred of the Big 12, all I can think of is that the hatred of the Big 12 is jealousy at this point.
Yeah,
It certainly was.
It
certainly was that in the Pac-12 because it's everything that Kliavkoff wasn't. And the destruction of that conference.
Back to the envelope calculations
by Larry Scott. Remarkable. So if you want to hate up, on the Big 12, please do.
Yeah.
Just explain it to me. Because I don't get it. Mike Smith, remember how the Pac-12 reporters made fun of Big 12 and Yormark? How the fan bases thought they were too good? How did that work out for the Pac-12? Oh, how much heat did we get on this show?
Yeah.
The remarkable part was people apologizing to us afterwards. That was the best part of it. To me, it's crazy. The business that Brett Yormark in his career has done. And now it's inarguable. You can't make the argument that Brett Yormark has even put a single step wrong in the Big 12 since he took over. I don't know how you would. Okay, so Oak State James has paid us for a comment, and I have not seen it yet.
Now, is this roller related, or do we think this is an upper deck thing? I mean,
well, it's got to be Preston Stone and adding an upper deck at SMU.
Has to be. I mean, come on.
For $5 hairs.
The cock.
Both Oak State and SMU. This guy. Were hurt by NCAA sanctions. That's why I'm glad SMU is doing well. Are they doing well? Well, they do have a huge rights deal that they're not taking part in. P.S. Oak State just built a building devoted to academic research. Neat. That's great. Cool. They're not a stalwart of academics.
Just a stalwartness.
Mike Smith, Bob Bowlesby did the initial expansion, had nothing to do with the PAC schools. I would agree. But Bob Bowlesby almost lost his ass to the PAC schools.
Mm-hmm.
I love and respect what Bob Bowlesby did. I have a lot of respect for Bob Bowlesby. He's treated me well in my career. He is responsible for UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, and BYU. He made a lot of mistakes at the top of this conference. And gently, I say, his lack of forward thinking and vision damn near ended this conference. Under his watch, how many big brands left the conference?
Right.
With all due respect, because Bob Bowlesby has an indelible history in this conference. Not all of it is good. Not all of it is good. Certainly not all of it is good. Jerry Willie, how much of that Pac-12 debt was a result of very limited football schedules during not a lot?
No. Their situation was self-inflicted over many years.
many. Put your lawyers in the replay booth. Good idea. Don't call Google. Good idea. Don't call DirecTV. Don't call Dish Network. Don't call your mom.
Pay the most outrageous rent you can in San Francisco for how long?
And then stay in suites and fly on private jets. Good call. That seems like a good business plan. Willie, Big 12 has old money and lots of it, and it's very quiet. Well, I mean, I don't disagree with that. Jimmy Otson, hello. Endeavor has a leader named Karen. Okay. Okay. Endeavor has a lot of leaders. Endeavor is a massive organization. Like it's yeah. It's a massive organization. Anthony Eason. ACC has more football brands, more basketball brands. That's a fact. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
They don't. They have more football brands.
How can you
then
say
you're in comparison?
Come on.
I would agree to a certain extent because the Big 12 has no football brands. I mean, Utah, we're watching it play out in real time. Utah is the biggest brand in that conference. But again, don't you dare say that about Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy's a huge disappointment. Oak State's a huge disappointment in this league. They're not a brand. How heavily tied is their brand to that, the team that's now in the SEC that shall remain nameless? Oklahoma. How much of the identity of Oak State is tied up in Oklahoma? A ton. How weak is the Oak State brand now that Oklahoma's not in the league anymore? I'm going to say pretty weak. But Mike, you don't need Oklahoma. You don't need to play Oklahoma. Norman, nah. Stoolwater.
I just don't think
Norman.
that the ACC has more football brands.
But let's be very clear. Brand is a very literal term. You're using it in that sense. Yes. Is Florida State a bigger brand than Utah? Well, yeah, absolutely. Is it a better football league than the Big 12? No, it's not. Is the ACC a better basketball league? I think it's very close. But again, I was talking to a dude yesterday. And what did a well-placed source say to me yesterday in TV? The Big 12's a more valuable basketball brand than the ACC. And this dude's up there in the TV world. Big 12's more valuable than the ACC is in basketball. It's not. I understand that we have allegiances and this is a fandom post. We can sit here and argue, well, Monty, on the court, their percentage of dribbles between the okay, great. Knock yourself out, man. Go as you were. That does not mean that the ACC is a more valuable branding position. They have better football brands. They're not a more valuable football conference. I can tell you that. They may have better basketball brands. I would agree that Duke and North Carolina is pretty tough to beat as basketball brand. But does that mean you're a better basketball league? It does not. It does not. It's pretty tough to beat Kansas and Arizona as basketball brands.
Houston.
Right. Well, Houston isn't a basketball brand. Now, they're playing at a very high level. But again, let's not confuse brand with execution or on-court success. Because both Duke and Carolina, Arizona, Kansas, like everybody's Kentucky, everybody goes through it now with the turnover in rosters in college basketball. But if we're talking about historical brands, there's none better than Duke and North Carolina. That does not make it a better product on the court. Branding has never reflected reality. That's almost the very purpose of branding. Spin a tale, tell a lie, spend money with us. That's what branding and advertising is. It's storytelling, plain and simple. Anyway, Keith Carl. Good morning. Good morning. All you casual meatloaf lovers and one hater. The argument over meatloaf yesterday. North Carolina will be a good football team as long as Mac Brown is there. Mac Brown's 197 years old. North Carolina. How do I break this to people? Mac Brown was good at Texas. He's a reputation guy. North Carolina is never going to be a good football program.
You mean Mac Brown has a brand?
Well, he has. Oh, thank you. Mac Brown's a good football coach. He's not an elite football coach. He's not. If Drake May was a legacy player, could have gone anywhere else. Listen, you have some odd affinity for weird dudes like Preston Stone and Mac Brown. Lap it up, bro. Lap it up. More than one meatloaf hater. You shut your mouth. SMU tight end Maryland will be in the NFL soon. Okay. The future security of the 12 is hoops. Credit to Yormark for understanding the landscape. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Notre Dame lost to Marshall. Why do you say things like that?
Sorry if you're offended by that.
Tell me now that SMU doesn't have a chance to beat Florida State on September 28th.
Come on, bro. You can't be serious, dude. Well, Monty, they lost to Georgia Tech.
Did you see what happened over there in Ireland?
Maybe
if they hadn't drank so much Dos Equis in Ireland,
those dark lagers, they really get you.
Dos Equis.
You said Dos Equis
Never
in
mind.
Ireland.
Eric and Durham. The Big 12 is more valuable than the ACC in basketball. Laughable. It is. It absolutely is.
Set your fandom aside.
Tell me how that's not correct. When you look at this league and you look at the operations in basketball and the money that is currently flowing through, I'm not telling you that I'll even defer to, okay, great, the ACC is a better basketball league. I don't give a rat's ass about what happens on the court. We're not talking about on-court execution. We're talking about branding and value. You don't have the branding operation the Big 12 has in the ACC. The Big 12 is right now, do you guys understand that the Big 12 has laid the blueprint for how you make money in basketball? Do you understand what they've done by committing to Kansas City, not Las Vegas? Do you understand what they've done by having guys like Shaq go and DJ in Kansas City at the Big 12 basketball tournament? Do you understand what they've done by this grand plan of theirs to add, even, let's just pretend they get UConn and Gonzaga. No, it's not even close. You're a better brand. It might be arguable. I don't think it is. It might be arguable now on the branding level. You add UConn and it's over. You add UConn and Gonzaga and it's really over. And oh, by the way, if that league melts down in the ACC, then there's not really a conversation to be had. I have your win on the floor. I don't care. It is hard to argue that what Brett Yormark is doing from a revenue stream business model, I don't know how you choose the ACC as a more valuable brand when that brand is on the verge of extinction.
Yeah.
That's the tough part. And does it say nothing about the value of the Big 12 brand that Duke and North Carolina and Virginia and Louisville and everybody else in that league is talking to the Big 12? Is or has? Come on. Jeremy Sevier. Schools want to associate with higher learning schools like Stanford because they want a piece of the academic pie, which is hundreds of billions of dollars. The University of Utah has over $1 billion endowment. And when you are the research, the academic, the creator of industry, that schools like Stanford, Cal, Utah, Duke, Carolina. Do you know the doctors that have come out of Duke? Do you know the lawyers that have come out of Duke? Do you know the entertainment titans that have come out of places like USC? Do you know the lawyers that have come out of Michigan? Like, it's prodigious. Go look at, and I would encourage you, go look at the federal judge appointments. Go look at where they went to school. All recognizable names. Dorothy and Kevin's School of Law isn't on many federal benches. It's not accidental that you had the Pac-12 as a unit together. It's not accidental that Duke and North Carolina recognize their value to each other. So I understand it grinds people's gears to hear that, but it is the facts of the case, and I think it is undisputed. So, James, let's see what happens with the 12-team playoff for a few years. Then we can see who the best football league is. Okay, that's a valid point. Bo, Mac Brown can whip Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris fears Mac Brown. Mac Brown's a stud. Willie Wilson. Oh, did SMU finally get out of county? But it's Dallas.
Tarrant County.
Dallas. Count. It says it on their jersey. Big Blue Horses. Well, you start with RJC, man, and so I move on. Mike Smith, pants on the ground, pants on the ground. There you go.
Okay.
Grab your socks. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Ron Nolan. Leftover meatloaf sandwiches the next day are the best. Bad out of hell. Dude, if you have never had, we got our farm to table box yesterday. Your boy going to have a rotisserie chicken on sourdough sandwich for lunch.
Chicken.
And that's going to be good. My wife. So last night I spent like 40 minutes hitting golf balls, trying to figure out how to use an iron, because last weekend I forgot how to swing an iron. I walk in the house, and what is my wife making? Beets boiling on the stove. Gross. Big Blue Horses. RX, that was this then, this is now. Okay. Who is RX? The Big Lubbock. RX is Wake Forest fan, totally irrelevant. You're a Wake Forest fan? There's no such thing as a Wake Forest fan. Come on, bruh. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the rest of the world down. Mac Brown is just breathing the air. Chuck lets him.
Yeah, seriously.
All the Chuck Norris lines.
I'm going to get medieval on your ass.
Chuck Norris. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. Look at that. James, the stadium guy and lover of Preston Stone. Give some money to the show.
Dude,
Appreciate
James,
that.
That's one less dollar towards, the upper deck.
Congratulations to Thomas Guest, who was gifted that membership.
Yeah, hey, Tom.
Hey, Tommy boy.
Yeah.
Don't fuck. Anyway, we don't curse on. We don't curse on this show.
It's a family program.
We don't curse on this show. Hour number 2 of the Monty Show is always presented by our friends at the Advocates, theadvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business.
When you've been injured in an accident, you need a lawyer, and you deserve an advocate. Insurance companies don't always play fair, but we can keep them in check. Most cases settle out of court, but we'll take your case to trial if necessary. You deserve an advocate.
Yes, you do. The Advocates at theadvocates.com. Chat with an injury attorney 24/7, 365 at theadvocates.com. It won't cost you a dime no matter where you watch this show. The Advocates are ready, willing, and able to serve you. You never pay the Advocates out of pocket. No consultation fees or big retainers. No, friends, you don't pay the Advocates unless and until they win your case. Chat with an injury attorney live online, theadvocates.com. Couple more, then we got to get to some game previews for tonight. Keith Carl, Mike Gundy, greater than Chuck Norris line coming soon. I can feel it.
I'm a man.
Okay. Big Blue Horses. Monty, did you or Mrs. Monty make the sourdough? Your rotisserie chicken will go on? No. Farm to table box. They make sourdough loaves, like a round of sourdough bread.
So good.
I don't eat much bread as a fat, dying Mormon, which I'm not. Fat, dying, or Mormon.
3/4 of this is inaccurate.
Yeah, I'm fat. It's fine. I don't eat much bread, but that sourdough is stupid. It's so good. In defense of RX, why? And who is RX? Wake Forest has a decent. No.
Next comment, dude.
James.
Yeah, next question.
Sergeant Green, Chuck Norris bowls overhanded. Yeah, he does. Bowl movement. And he also squats to wipe. Chuck Norris could beat Gundy with one hand tied behind his back. So could I. Dev MC, hello. Everything about Wake Forest is trash.
Damn.
Oh my God. Why there are no Wake Forest fans. Let's just be honest about it. There are no Wake Forest fans. It is what it be. It is what it be, bros.
Yeah.
All right, let's start. North Dakota State, Colorado. Jake, your boy is -9.5 at home tonight.
Mm-hmm.
How big is this game for Deion Sanders?
I think it's huge. I mean, obviously, this is a game you need to win, and I think, we've talked so much about, the relationship he's had with the media this offseason. We've talked so much about, the portal and, all the roster turnover and, just basically how the program's been kind of, in flux might be a harsh term to use, but I just feel like the offseason wasn't maybe as positive and forward moving from a publicity standpoint as maybe Dion would have wanted. So a win tonight would go a long way, especially when you consider what, this North Dakota State squad brings. I mean, you look at this squad. You've got Cam Miller, quarterback, who is somebody who is quite talented, is got a big arm, is able to place the ball where he needs to be successful, throwing through the secondary. I look at, Colorado's defense from last year. The secondary was a huge problem. And I think we're going to see that play out tonight where, you've got Colorado who's going to be better in the trenches, in my opinion. But I don't think that secondary all of a sudden is going to go from being as bad as they were to somehow being, elite per se. I think they will be marginally better. But I think that's what will ultimately keep this game close, is that you're going to have, a higher scoring game. I think you're going to see, somewhere between, if Colorado wins this game, I think you're going to see 35, 38 points out of Colorado. I think, you're going to win this game by one score, a touchdown. I think North Dakota State covers. And I think they cover mainly because that defense is not going to slow down the passing attack.
Yeah, I disagree. I think Colorado's going to win this game by 14 points. I have a lot of respect for North Dakota State, but you have a new head coach, and granted, they are one of the favorites to win the FCS championship. But I look at what Shedeur Sanders has turned into, and if all of the accounts are correct, he's a much more intelligent quarterback. His football IQ has gone up. I think last year was a wake-up call for Shedeur in that he understands now he's got to unload the football. I think that's number one. Number two, I think he has no choice because this front for North Dakota State is going to be absolutely dominant. They get after the quarterback's ass, but I think Shedeur Sanders has already shown us, even in the beating he took, that he understands movement inside the pocket. And I think you will see a much smarter, more ready quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. And I think they will use that pass rush against North Dakota State. And I think you're looking at a prolific offense that I think is ready at Colorado. Are the Bison going to get to Shedeur Sanders? Absolutely they will.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you're going to get to him at a rate that is necessary for North Dakota State to win this game. And I think the big playability that we know Colorado has will be on full display tonight, because my single biggest concern for North Dakota is their inability to cover out in the route.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest concern. I would think that Shedeur Sanders would be over the prize pick number of 295.5. I would go more. I think this is a 300-yard night for Shedeur Sanders. I think that Colorado is going to come out, and I think they're going to run the rock. And I think if they do that,
which would be a huge improvement on what they were not able to do last year.
I think you have to early in this game have balance. In the first quarter, you've got to run the football, because North Dakota State has struggled against teams that have been able to consistently run the ball. And it opens up the can of whoop ass in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to get, even if you're just 3.5 yards a carry, it's going to bring North Dakota State's linebackers closer to the line. And if you do that, Shedeur Sanders has so many weapons, a really good wide receiver room, and a quarterback that has a really nice touch. He is a really good deep ball thrower. And I think one of the things that Shedeur Sanders does well that not a lot of people want to talk about is when he chooses to throw the ball to the flat or underneath, he is lethally accurate. He is a very accurate passer. That's why I lean. And again, to your point, Cam Miller's a really good quarterback at North Dakota. Looking at his game tape and looking at his numbers, it matches up well. He shows out very well. We need to see what this Colorado defensive line is going to do.
Yeah, and I think the reason we go over that 60.5 number tonight but Colorado wins is just what you're saying. I mean, you have two quarterbacks that, you know, our Shedeur last season was 69% completion percentage for 27 touchdowns and only 3 picks. That's outstanding considering the protection he did not have, how much he's running around. So if that can improve tonight, if if the protection's better, you would think that he's going to be over 70% completion as the season wears on. Cam Miller was over 70% last year, 72% on 3,300 total yards and 32 touchdowns with 4 interceptions. So from a talent perspective, these two quarterbacks are pretty similar stats wise. Now, obviously, you know, Shedeur is extremely athletic. Cam Miller is not as athletic, but that's why I say I think you're going to see a game here in the range of, you know, 35 to 38 points. Shedeur is going to be over 300 yards in this game. You're going to see big plays. And I think the only question is, does Colorado turn North Dakota State over at all in this game? Because if that takes place, Colorado should walk away with this game. But if the way I think it plays out is you're going to see a 35-27 game. Colorado's going to win the ball game. Shedeur's going to have a big night. I think to what you were saying, they're going to be able to run the ball, but I don't think they run it for more than probably 100 yards. I don't think you get over 100 yards.
If Colorado does not go over 100 yards rushing, they will lose.
Yeah.
They will lose. I don't know how else to. This offensive line for Colorado has to show that they are, I mean, a complete 180 of what they were last year. They were a disaster last year. You have the top offensive tackle recruit in the country there who was an early enrollee. I think that you have to show that you can play this game in the trenches. And if you want Bison on Buffalo crime, you're going to get it tonight.
Yeah.
Because that Bison defensive front is going to get after the quarterback. And if that Buffalo offensive line cannot hold up, this is going to be a very bad night for Colorado. But my opinion is that Deion is a good coach. He can validate my belief in him tonight. And if they play better on the offensive line, and if they are able to hold North Dakota State in the run game, this is going to be a 42-28 win for Deion Sanders in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are a better team. I think that they are 9.5 points is a slap in the face. Now, again, North Dakota State, FCF championship caliber club that is really talented. But even a mildly upgraded roster at Colorado is more talented than what North Dakota State has.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you have a guy in Shedeur Sanders that should be in the Heisman talk and he's not, he has a chance to put himself there starting tonight.
Yeah, a guy already projected to be the number 1 pick in next year's draft.
Yeah, I think he is. He is an incredible player, Shedeur. I don't know that you can say enough about the talent that he brings to the yard. I just, what he went through last year and the beating that Shedeur Sanders took last year, that he survived and kept going.
I think it was 57 times he was sacked last year or something like that. And that doesn't even account for hits. That's just total sacks that he went through last year. I think the number was 57, might have been 55, somewhere in that range. Like and some of those are on him, right? Like you were talking about, like, you know, by all reports, the football IQ has been raised. Like he's getting better with dumping it off to the back and the flat, throwing the ball away. Like, and I do think he's going to have to do some of that and be a little bit smarter in that way. You know, like tonight as an example, like, don't take the sack that puts you, you know, you're 2nd and 5. Don't take the sack that puts you back in 3rd and 10. Throw that ball away, dump it off, pick up a yard rather than losing 5. Like those little things for this Colorado offense are what ultimately are going to decide, you know, just how far they can get this year. Because I think they have the talent to shock some people with how many games they win. Like last year, they led all of college football in how many 1-score games they were in. You know, so you're talking about a team that last year was in a ton of these games. Now, I know they only won 4 of them, but when you're in a ton of 1-score games, You're just not making enough of the small plays to put teams away, and that's why you ultimately lose. So that's another layer that I'm looking for tonight. Like Shedeur not taking that bad sack, get rid of it or dump it off. Like the defense, being more disciplined in their concepts.
But if you look at Khalil Benson, I think he is an incredibly important player. Jordan Seaton's he's a 5-star recruit at freshman. Deion doesn't recruit, I understand. He's got the number 1 offensive tackle prospect in the country out of high school, Jordan Seaton, starting a tackle. And maybe, listen, Justin Mayers from UTEP might be the most important lineman because they were terrible on the interior last year. And if they're going to give up penetration on the interior of that Colorado offensive line, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
They're going to lose. And I think the other thing that I would say is Shedeur Sanders always has an easy button in Tyreek Hill. Travis Hunter. Because that's the caliber of wide receiver he is.
Big play creator.
He is somebody that terrifies you. And I think you look at Colorado, and it's going to be a matter of what Colorado is able to do in the trenches. 42-28. I think Colorado wins, covers, and it goes over.
Yeah, I like 38-27. I don't think you get over 40, but I do think you win this game by more than 7. And I would like that. I would like if Colorado has a good night, that North Dakota State getting to 27 points will happen in garbage time.
Yeah, I think it is. Colorado's going to run for 100. Shedeur cannot be sacked multiple times. And I believe that if they run for 100 and Shedeur throws for 300, they'll score 42 points.
Yeah.
Because their skill position players are terrifying.
Travis Hunter should absolutely eat tonight. There's no question about that.
Does he get a pick and a touchdown? Because that's what one of the props on this game is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that he will get a pick and a touchdown tonight. Do you buy that?
I think I buy the touchdown, obviously, of course. I
think he's a better corner than he is a wide receiver.
What I was going to say is he's a tremendously talented corner. I think the interception portion is a little bit more difficult because I give Cam Miller a lot of credit. I think he's smart with the football. You don't complete 72% of your passes and only throw 4 interceptions But
he also plays at the FCS level.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. But
he didn't throw for 300 or 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
He's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He is a good quarterback, and he's a guy that can run the football as well.
Well, I guess maybe the question we should be asking when it comes to Travis Hunter and the interception side is, what does the defensive line do for Colorado? If
that's a big question.
If the defensive line has a good night, yeah, Travis Hunter's probably got an interception. If they're pushing that pocket, if they're continuing to lean on Cam most of the night, yeah, he's probably got an interception tonight. Yeah, probably. Honestly, yeah.
I think, and again, we can kind of sit here and we can. I'm looking at the numbers. I am telling you now. I am telling you right now. I just think Shedeur Sanders is the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think Travis Hunter is the world. And for a guy who can't recruit, because don't forget, Deion can't recruit.
Right.
For a guy who can't recruit, he's going to put up 42 points, and I think they're going to walk away with a win.
Yeah.
Comments section, where are you at? Final score predictions. Colorado favored by 9.5 on a 60.5 point number. What's your final score prediction? I like 42-28. I think that you're going to have to show. I think the bigger question here is, can the Colorado defense be disciplined? That'll be the biggest question. So we'll find out. I 42-28, you're what?
38-27.
So you think it's a close game?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see about that. All right. Let's get to Utah and Southern Utah, because I think this is not about the game. This is about the reemergence of a team at Utah that I don't think without question was a disappointment last year.
Certainly.
That kind of, they didn't fall back to earth. They plummeted back to earth and landed with a thud. Cam Rising was controversial. Brant Kuithe, the injury, didn't play, disappointing. And it never got better. The Oregon game, it never got better. You look at the mounting losses in their biggest games of the year, Washington, it never got better. Even beating SC, it never got better. You wound up in Las Vegas where you lost. It never got better. And now you're in a situation with Utah where the expectations have never been higher. Everybody's got them going to the college football playoff. Almost everybody has them winning the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts tonight. How much of Cam Rising do we need to see?
I'd like to see a half at least. I think, Cam talked a lot about this week that, he's looking forward to taking that first hit, to feeling, the physicality of the game again, and that it's been, a long time for him, obviously, with this knee situation and just how last year played out. And I think, for an athlete, you need to come out and use this game as a, hey, let's get the rust off. Let's get, 4 or 5 possessions at least in the first half, to kind of set ourselves up, because again, by the time you get to Big 12 play, you need to be 100%, both mentally and physically. Like, you need to be comfortable. You need to be back in that flow. You and Brant need to be on the same page. It just all needs to be kind of solidified and settled in. So how much of him do we need to see tonight? I'd like to see him play all the first half, at least. I think, you're probably going to see that. I think if you're 35 points by the half, I think you're going to see a ton of Isaac Wilson in the second half. I don't
know. It's an interesting question. Do you burn a year of Isaac Wilson? Or do you say to yourself, let's not play this guy. Let's try to save his eligibility. Do you believe that Cam Rising can stay healthy from heretofore throughout the entire season? Because if you don't believe that Cam can stay healthy, and he's 37 years old, we understand age, father time is undefeated.
Right.
37.
Right.
Anyway, if you don't believe that Cam Rising, who's 52 years old, can stay healthy the entire season, you have to play Isaac Wilson. I think you need at least a half. And I think you probably do play Isaac Wilson.
Yeah, I think the thing, for Cam and the Utes is I would expect the play calling to protect Cam Rising a little bit tonight as well in the first half. I would expect a lot of running in terms of running the football. I would expect a lot of, hey, we're going to impose our will early in this game. You got to remember, in 2022, these two played and the score was 73-7, I think, or whatever it was. So, this is not going to be like, we're going to sit here and, speculate about how many points they're going to score. But this game is very much a, hey, let's tune up, let's get going, let's get ready, and let's get into the flow. So all you need to do tonight is get Cam Rising feeling good in the pocket, feeling like himself again. And then, if you can get Isaac Wilson some reps, I think that's also valuable.
I also think we need to see Utah run the ball. Obviously, losing Jaquindon Jackson to Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Micah Bernard is a really talented back who I'm stunned he's back. But you look at Jalen Glover, wildly talented kid. I think you need to see them run the football. I think we need to see Spencer Fano. I think we need to see Moko Fisi just be dominant road grading offensive linemen that lead to gash runs against an undermanned SUU team. That's what this night needs to be about. Yes, we need to see Cam Rising. Yes, we need to see Brant Kuithe. We need to see this offensive line come together behind Fano and Mokofisi, and I think we need to see them run the football because they've had. I mean, this is a program from Jamal Anderson to Devontae Booker. Like, think about some of the great running backs that have come through this program, and then think about the recent past and the tumult in the backfield that Utah has dealt with. Micah Bernard, he can be a guy. Jalen Glover can be a guy. But they're not dudes without Mokofisi, Fano, and the rest of that group up front.
Yes.
So I think we need to see that tonight. I think this defense, my God, I think you're losing Jonah Ellis, right? I think when you look at their depth chart, there's a huge hole there. Who's going to stay? Is Fano capable? Is the other Fano as a defensive end capable of filling that gap? He doesn't need to be Ellis. He needs to be Fano and stay healthy, right? I think that's really important. But Lander Barton and Karene Reed are I think the best 1-2 linebacking combo in the conference. I think that that's going to be a huge part of this defense. Sione Fotu is a guy that I think on the strong side has to really develop and stand up. This defense is going to kick you in the face, dude. Like, this Utah defense is going to be very good. I know that's a shocker under Kyle Whittingham. But you look at the secondary, getting Keenan Johnson from Georgia Tech, I thought was a huge pickup for this secondary who has holes to fill. I think, you're putting guys like Cole Bishop in the NFL. We're going to have to see who emerges in those spots.
He was such a stud last year.
Seriously. I think it is one of those things that we have to see. And Cam Rising, again, all these names that we're mentioning for Utah, they just need to get their mojo back. Cam Rising's a very good quarterback. I want to make the argument that he's the best quarterback in the conference, but I need to see him be that. Brant Kuithe is the best receiving tight end in the conference. He is a wide receiver more than he's a tight end. The guy's a stud, coming off of a major knee injury that has cost him significant time.
I think that that football IQ conversation we were having with Shador a few minutes ago, I also think we can apply a little of that to Cam Rising because, Cam, I think needs to and can be a little bit smarter with how he applies his ability to run. He is not fast, but he is tactically fast enough to get you a first down once in a while with his legs. I would like to see him be a little more protective of his body this year, a little smarter, just like, let's not go and fight some defensive linemen to try to get a yard. Like, let's be a little smarter with that stuff. And I think, by all reports, everything that's come out of Utah's camp, Cam feels great. The knee feels great. He feels great. Like, everything that we've seen and heard says that, it's all systems go. He's 100% ready to go. So, I fully expect the Utes to put up 70 tonight. That's just what I expect them to do. And the thing I'd like to see is just a high level of execution. Don't make it about Southern Utah. Make it about yourself. Hey, we're coming out against a team that has no business being on the same field as us. Let's go out and get our work in. Let's go out and show who we are. And if you do that, you should come out of this game 100% healthy. You should be feeling good, and you should be heading into next week with a lot of momentum.
Dorian Singer. Bouncing around. Arizona, SC, now Utah. Is he the 2022 Arizona Dorian Singer, or is he the 2023 SC Dorian Singer? Because he was way better at Arizona than he was at SC. And Cam Rising needs him. I think he is one of your few question marks. Because I think Micah Bernard is fine. You can rely on that guy. I think Mokofisi, I think Cam Rising, Brant Kuithe, like all the guys we've talked about, you can count on them. Dorian Singer needs to be a big play guy for this Utes offense. I think they win 764-31.
I want more.
I think they probably score 60 points. I don't think they'd put up 70. I think they'll score 60. I think they'll probably give up 12, 10. I think this is a walk in the park. Yeah. And I think this game is all about getting your swagger back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tanner Plummer, Marty, you want to say Cam is the best QB in the Big 12? What would Shedeur Sanders say? I think that Cam Rising's top end, his generalship, all this stuff we talk about not taking hits. Cam Rising gets in trouble when he runs. Shedeur Sanders gets in trouble when he holds the football. Cam Rising is very good at getting rid of the football. And he's got good weapons in Brant, Kuithe, and I would think Dorian Singer. If Cam Rising, if that knee is playable, because that's a big concern for me. I want to see what that knee is. Is he still a mobile quarterback? Is he a guy that runs? I would think not nearly as much. But if Cam Rising is a hundo P and the guy that we've seen in the past, he's the best quarterback in the league. Shedeur Sanders has to show that he's developed into a smart quarterback with football IQ, with get rid of the football, avoid the hit, throw. Like, is he willing to throw the ball out of bounds? Is Shedeur Sanders willing to just bail the ball out of bounds?
I hope so.
Because last year he was not willing to do that. He was not willing to do that. If he is willing to dump the ball underneath or throw it out of bounds, Shedeur Sanders could be the best quarterback in the country. Not the league, the country. But he's never shown that. At Jackson State, he took big hits.
Mm-hmm.
Because he likes to hold the ball to try and make plays. That's a death sentence in this game. He's got to be better than that. And Dion has harped on that for 2 years now. Has the message gotten through? It didn't last year, and it cost him a good part of the season. So let's see what you got. I think it's one of those deals where you have to figure out, because, this league is loaded with quarterbacks. The Fighting Fafitas, my guy Jalen at Kansas. I don't know what to make of the guy named after a football coach at K-State or a basketball coach at K-State. I don't know what Avery Johnson is. If you're a 57% passer, which he's been, you're not a good quarterback. And if you want long hair and you want to run all over the place, congratulations. That's not what wins games. But you look at the quarterbacks in the Big 12. You can put Cam Rising and Shedeur Sanders at the top of just about any of those lists.
Mm-hmm.
And there are good. I know he's no Alan Bowman, but he'll do.
Right.
He's no Garrett Green, but he'll do. Like, look at KJ Jefferson at UCF. What does he turn into under Gus Malzahn? Because I think he's going to be a beast.
Yeah, I think that's got big play showtime written all over it.
And again, I ask, look at Cam Rising. If Dorian Singer's Arizona Dorian Singer, Cam Rising's probably the best quarterback in the league this year.
Brant Kuithe is going to be a lot more open.
So my point is, Cam Rising, if Cam Rising is the guy we know him to be at his best that we've seen, he's the best quarterback in the league. I'm not sure how you even argue that. But Baron Morton's got talent for days. But is he on Cam's level? He's not. Right? I don't think there's another quarterback in this league. And I love my guy Fafita. He's not on Cam Rising's level. He's not on Shedeur's level. Even though he's got arguably the best quarterback wide receiver combo in the league.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't forget, what Cam's capable of. Again, I know it's the what if game with the Ohio State game, but remember where they were before he got hurt. They had Ohio State in control. They were winning that game, and then he got hurt. So again, Cam Rising is someone who's been in the big game. He's someone who isn't intimidated by the moment and just simply needs to stay healthy, and they will be very good. So, yeah, I when you talk about most talented, yeah, Shore's probably got the most raw talent in the league, but Cam's the best quarterback in the league,
being
man.
the most talented guy doesn't make you the best quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if we've learned anything from recent drafts and recent flops, I mean, your talent level.
And look at Anthony Richardson, the talent he was at Florida. And then look what he hasn't done. I mean, it's been nothing short of disappointing.
Lamar Jackson. I look at the
Yeah.
kid that was the 49ers who's now on the Cowboys, like
Trey Lance.
Not an NFL quarterback. So you've got to stay healthy because your best ability is your availability.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not on the field, what good is it? Congratulations on that big arm you got there, kid. But, you know, I think tonight's really important for Utah. Get in, get out, be healthy. That's what you need from this group. That's what you need from this group because they've got big games coming. They've got, and Shedeur as well. It's the same, like, again, and there is a full slate of Big 12 games tonight that are very important. Like, you look at TCU, tonight's a big night for TCU. They're at Stanford Stadium at 8:30 on ESPN. That's a big game for TCU. They've got to go to Stanford and beat the hell out of Stanford. That's the storyline. I look at Kansas and Lindenwood, show me some Jalen, and then let's go home. Right? I look at UCF against New Hampshire. You know, they're a 40-point favorite. Show me some KJ and let's go home.
Again, UCF, huge wild card in this conference. This conference is going to continue to step forward. UCF's got to have a big year.
A big year.
Again, don't be surprised. I'm not saying UCF is a college football playoff team, but that's a team that hangs around the top 25, the low end of the top 25.
Well, a week from now, we're going to be looking at Baylor coming to Salt Lake City with 8-Ball fighting for his job
in week 2.
That this is something where Utah needs to get in here, get some guys some reps and some work, and leave here walking, not in an ambulance or a walking boot.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of tonight. Make sure your ACLs are intact. Like I love the Fanos, but man, you got to stay healthy, right? I love Cam Rising and Brant Kuithe, and Cam to more of an extent. You got to stay healthy. Got to. Both those dudes should be in the NFL. Cam Rising and Brant Kuithe should be in the NFL, but they couldn't stay healthy. You've missed essentially 2 years. You didn't play at all last year. So your best ability is your availability. That's as simple as I can say it. Brandon Unruh, hello. You've been sleeping on Avery Johnson and K-State all offseason. He's a 57% passer. I'm not sleeping on him. Guys like Avery Johnson have got to show that they can do the job as the number one unquestioned guy.
And by the way, I hope he proves us wrong. I want K-State to be good.
But here's the thing, Brandon. I saw him play through his high school career. That's great. That's great. You can't win games when you are wildly inaccurate. 57% it's not going to get it done.
Not even close to good enough.
It's not going to get it done. And listen, I'm telling you now that we can sit here and we can play this game with, I'm going to prove you wrong. I hope you do. I hope you do. It's not like we're sitting here rooting for homie to be terrible. Nobody's trying to do that. Right? Nobody's over here rooting for Avery Johnson the struggle. But I'm telling you right now, you look at who this kid is, there is an enormity of pressure on him to be something he's never shown himself to be, which is an accurate, efficient passer.
Yeah, 60% used to be kind of the benchmark in quarterbacking. Like, hey, if you could be 6 out of every 10 you were completing, that was passable. But anymore, with how athletic, how fast, how physical defenses are, you got to be, 65, 67, 68%. Like, that's why you're seeing more quarterbacks being, again, Cam Miller, right? 72% last year. Again, FCS competition, I know. But the point is that at this level, you got to be 65 plus. 57% is not going to get it done.
And I'd also remind you that Ben Sinnott and Cooper Beebe are no longer wearing the K-State uniform. I mean, those guys were prolific contributors. Will Howard was a prolific contributor. And again, I just tell you, Avery Johnson's a good quarterback, but he's a better runner than he is a thrower. And that is a recipe for disaster. Because in this league, especially, you don't stay healthy running the ball as much as he has shown us he wants to run the ball. You just don't. And when, again, I ask K-State fans this all the time, when has he shown you that he can deliver the football and win you a game? Small body work at the college level, but anywhere, he's never shown you that, right? 71 yards in a score and throwing for 2 touchdown passes in the bowl game was great. He's got to run less and throw more. That's
simple.
It really is that simple. And I also think it's important to note that, yes, Garrett Oakley was a good number 2 last year who will be a decent one. But is Dante Cephas the guy who steps in out of the portal and is like home run guy? Because you're good. You're not over the top talented at wide receiver at K-State. And in a league where Oklahoma State has the greatest wide receivers we've ever seen anywhere ever.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. I just think that you've lost a lot of talent on that offense. Sinnott, Beebe, I mean, those are
Will Howard,
huge contributors. Well, I mean, Avery Johnson's the greatest quarterback who's ever lived, so you don't.
Yeah, sure.
I'm being a jerk now. But he just hasn't been unleashed yet. He was a freshman learning the playbook, but you don't all of a sudden become accurate. You can make better decisions. But in this league against these defenses, and if you look at K-State's schedule, UT Martin at Tulane, Arizona, it's going to be a fire show against Arizona. BYU's defense in Provo, September 21st, is going to be much improved. Oak State's defense is going to be, I think Oak State's defense will be their hallmark this year.
Mm-hmm.
At Colorado, at West Virginia, Kansas, Houston, Arizona State, Cincinnati, Iowa State. He's got 4 of the better defenses. Who does he not have on that schedule?
Utah.
We'll see. It's all gonna come out in the wash. I think Avery Johnson's going to have spectacular moments. I think he's going to be on SportsCenter.
Dude, he's a quarterback that has big playability, but doesn't have the consistency or the accuracy to take you places. He's not somebody who's going to sit back there, diagnose the defense, and say, oh, yeah, hey, by the way, we're playing cover 2 shell, should probably audible into a run. Oh, we're playing single high. Let me go over here. Like, he's not there yet.
And he's not a guy, does K-State ever ask Avery Johnson to throw the ball 50 times in a game?
Hell no. No. By the way, if you're not asking him to throw 50 times a game, you're going to have a prolific run game, especially considering Cooper Beebe's not there anymore.
Well, and you do have, I think you do. That's a very interesting point. Because Dylan Edwards is a hell of a get, obviously, Deion Sanders.
Yes.
Really good safety valve, right? It'll be interesting to see because Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards have a great relationship. So we'll see.
Like I said,
can you be more than a top 10 highlight?
Show me.
That's
all
right.
I'm asking for. I would go out and say a successful season for Avery Johnson this year. In year 1, really, as the full-time number 1 guy. Your first chance as the unquestioned guy, 60%, 2,500 yards. If you can do that, you're going to have a good year.
And I think a year from now, we're going to have a different conversation.
Yeah.
So, Kaner and BYU should play too.
We're not doing that today.
So let me get this. So BYU should play 2 quarterbacks. I'm just curious. How'd that work out for K-State last year? Speaking of K-State, it didn't. It never works. What's the old saying? When you have 2 quarterbacks, you have
no quarterbacks. Utah last year.
Jake Retzloff is a guy that I think he's the starting quarterback. They said yesterday that they know who their wow, Jaron Hall waived by the Vikings.
Damn.
The Vikings are signing Brett Rippon and waiving Jaron Hall.
Well, hey, Rippon's had a nice little camp here.
He played well for the Bursts.
Yeah, nice little camp here.
Maybe Jaron Hall can come back and be the starting quarterback at BYU.
8th year, purple shirt senior.
Heron Jall, the starting quarterback.
Yeah. Right.
I think that it'll be very interesting to see how BYU handles this. They know, and it's surprising. I was talking to a BYU player the other day who would not tell me who it is. Would not tell me who it is.
All I'm asking for, and I think it's Jake. That's my opinion. If they roll Jerry out there, okay, we can talk about that. What I don't want and what's completely and utterly unacceptable is to play 2 quarterbacks. That's
cannot do it.
That is unacceptable. Can't do it.
Can't do it.
It is the worst thing in football. I don't care what level you're playing at. You need to have the guy. And the only reason he comes out of the game is either he was garbage or he got hurt. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
I don't want to see. By the way, BYU fan, how did rolling out 5 new offensive linemen and every other play work out last year? It didn't, right? Like, that's not how you get success.
The other thing that BYU fan doesn't want to hear is that Southern Illinois is actually pretty good. Southern Illinois can play some football. So I think it's Jake Retzloff. I think he knows the offense. He has the chemistry. A-Rod said yesterday that one quarterback has emerged clear in the race. It's Jake Retzloff. He said the team saw it. Everybody saw it. Exactly what we wanted happened. One quarterback won the race. Jake was spectacular down the stretch in camp. Had 1 interception, no interceptions in spring ball, 1 interception in fall camp. I don't even think it's you come out with their schedule is really tough.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't have time to be messing around with who your quarterback's going to be.
Southern Illinois, at SMU, at Wyoming.
You're not definitively better than SMU right out the gate.
K-State, at Baylor, Arizona, Oak State, at UCF, at Utah, Kansas, at Arizona State, Houston.
That's a grinder, bro.
It's going to be a long season. And it'll be very interesting to see, yeah. How did playing 2-3 quarterbacks? How's Gunnar Gundy working out?
Seriously.
That's a great point.
Great point.
Yeah. Southern Illinois is still an FCS team. BYU needs to beat them by at least 28 to 30 points.
And if it's Jake, you're going to.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't play 2 quarterbacks because the style of each of them and the chemistry with your receivers backs tight. No, the chemistry with your offensive line.
Yeah.
You have... Kingsley Suamataia was a stud last year. That I believe is starting for the Chiefs at left tackle.
He is.
I thought I read that on Twitter yesterday.
You did.
I agree. Chemistry's huge. Ron Nolan says Saluki Zeke Cougars. Okay. I think Jake will be the starter. I think Jake will be the starter too.
Yeah.
Make or break time. Make or break
time.
Go,
baby.
Make or break time. All right. Did you guys see the story out of Kroger? Let's get to the non-sports stories of the day. As always, brought to you by our good friends at Canyons Resorts. I am excited to play golf at Canyons on Saturday morning and Monday on Labor Day. I'm actually not playing golf Sunday. I'm going to see Hamilton. Going to see Hamilton. Yay! You're supposed to play the yay drop, but it's fine. Going to see Hamilton Sunday, going out to a steak dinner. It's going to be amazing. I'll be at Canyons the rest of the weekend. Really excited about it. And one of the things I love, you guys know that I'm a big believer that golf is a game of practice, not of playing. Working on the irons. Feel really good about my iron swing right now. Cannot wait to get back to Canyons. The driver is going to be a work in progress until I get my irons right.
Mm-hmm.
But the driver's a work in progress. I'm excited to get back on the course. I love the elevated tee boxes, the lush fairways and greens, the par threes at Canyons golf. One of the things I love about it is you're hitting over a lake. You're hitting their 16th par 3 16th hole is about 120 to 150 yards, depending on the pin placement. You can get a big draw into that green. Like, I love that. Absolutely love it. Looking forward to it. It's one of the things I really enjoy about playing at Canyons, and it's also in a world-class setting at municipal prices, right? So get online, book your tee times. Just search Canyons Golf Park City, book online, right? And then plan it out. Have world-class dining experiences right there in the village, right next to Canyons Golf. It is Park City Mountain Resort, Canyons Village, world-class dining experience, a great Mexican plate, any kind of food you want.
Yes.
Bar food, sports bar, Mexican, they've got it all. World-class shopping in the shops in Canyons Village. It's just a great golf experience. Canyons Golf, the official golf resort of the Monty Show. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Did you hear about this Kroger thing yesterday?
Now, I know that all the prices and everything being way more expensive was Sleepy Joe's fault.
No,
I
it's
know.
Kamala.
Oh, Kamala.
Kamala.
It was Kamala's fault. And, those damn Democrats and, those damn liberals jacking up our prices. But what do you know?
Jacking.
Yeah, jacking up the prices. What do you know?
It turns out that Kroger is at fault. Kroger, who I would remind you, only had to talk about this in a public setting because they're trying to acquire Albertsons.
Oh.
They want, in $1 billion deal, they want to buy Albertsons to become the largest grocery chain in the country. Did you guys know that Kroger owns and operates dairy farms and chicken farms? They testified yesterday in this is one of the most disgusting displays I have ever seen. And it is so frustrating. They admitted during an antitrust trial yesterday that they gouged prices beyond inflationary levels in front of the Federal Trade Commission. Kroger's senior director of pricing, Andy Groff, said the chain had raised prices for eggs and milk beyond inflationary levels. And I am amazed by it. Groff said Kroger intends to, quote, pass through our inflation to consumers after an internal email from the executive showed that the price of eggs and milk were routinely inflated beyond what inflation would require for the chain to still make profits. Quote, on milk and eggs, retail inflation has been significantly higher than inflation, end quote, Groff said in an internal email to Kroger executives. And it is remarkable to me that Kroger spun this as it was misquoted and cherry-picked. And then you go sit in front of, and this is what always happens, and this is what I love. This is why government has to remain in a current state where we have independent bodies who are responsible for ultimate accountability to protect the American consumer. It was cherry-picked and misquoted in previous months when Kroger was asked about this. They said it was cherry-picked and it was a misquote. So then you want to buy Albertsons. So you have to go in front of the FTC where you are legally compelled to tell the truth. Oh, and then the emails come out.
Oh.
And it turns out it wasn't cherry picked and it wasn't misquoted. In fact, it was a direct quote from one executive to all the other executives in the Kroger company. And yet, what have we been doing? Oh, Kamala wants to hold down prices and damage these corporations, and it's Joe's fault that milk and eggs are expensive, which the Trump campaign and JD Vance for months and months now, the Trump campaign has been saying, and since he came aboard, JD Vance has been saying, they're trying to raise the prices and it's their fault that eggs and milk. It turns out it's Kroger's fault, who freely now talk openly about the fact that they raised prices on milk and eggs because the consumers have to pay it. And what else did they say? What are the core items that they know always sell? Milk, eggs, and lettuce. What are some of the most inflated items at Kroger? They gouged American consumers on the items that they know they needed. Bread also included in that. And then who knew that they had dairy farms where they produce milk and they own egg factories where they produce eggs that they sell in their stores. Price gouging's real and it's disgusting. And the funny thing is, again, I just say, I am somebody who passionately believes that we have to enforce the laws that are on the books in this country, enforce the price gouging laws. It is infuriating to me that we are dealing with a global pandemic and supply chain issues, and inflation is a result of those situations. And you have a major grocery provider now admitting to the Federal Trade Commission that they gouged the American consumer. It is infuriating.
It's the worst of the worst, dude.
It is absolutely infuriating. And I just don't.
How do you ever shop at a Kroger brand again? How do you go to one of those stores again? Like
I don't know how you go to another Kroger store. How do you look at this? And the problem is, if it was just Kroger and just groceries, you could, push down. It's like gas and oil companies, profit taking. It is without question. It's profit taking, right? And you look at what, like, all of this stuff.
It's endless.
That these companies know consumers have to have. What we've always dealt with arbitrary gas prices going up. Oh, it's because of the summer blend, right? Like it's gouging. It's profit taking. It's these companies that got bailouts doing stock buybacks. It really frustrates me.
Yeah, and it should frustrate everybody. And it should be a thing where I'm serious. I wouldn't spend money at Kroger now that this has come out. I would not. That, like,
yeah.
And I get it. There are a lot of places where they're the only option, and if that's the case, that's really unfortunate.
And if they wind up with Albertsons, good Lord, good luck, because you're not going to be able to get away from it. You're not going to be able to get away from it. And I think it is really unfortunate that you're looking at a situation where this is, again, I think it's outlandish that they own milk producing farms and chicken producing farms. And so they don't have supply chain issues.
Oh,
they own Kroger, Ralph's, Dillon's, Smith's, King Soopers, Fry's, QFC, City Market, Owens, JC, Payless, Baker's, Gerber's, Harris Teeter, Pick and Save, Metro Market, and Mariano's. They also own Fred Meyer. And now they want to own Albertsons.
Shopped at Fry's all the time when we lived in Phoenix.
It's horrendous to me. It's so frustrating. It is so frustrating to me. It's so annoying. All Kroger is doing is if Kroger is doing it, so is everyone, because the prices are about the same everywhere. Yeah, because nobody is in place to stop them. So I think it is really, it's egregious. And we want to politicize this stuff. It's not a political thing. It's an American thing. And it's an anti-American thing. And these are the companies that get the biggest tax breaks. It's
wild.
Calford, Kroger discriminates against homosexual chickens like Chick-fil-A. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Let's see. James for $5. Avery Johnson is going to be better than last year. For the record, FTR. I never said Oak State's wide receivers were the greatest. I said they have never had okay.
That was a misquote. It was a misquote.
We cherry picked it.
Yeah.
Big Blue Horses, member for 10 months. Peace out. Enjoy college football playoff and go Gators.
Yes.
See you soon, bud. Be well. No, it's a capitalist thing. It's not, though. It's not a capitalist thing. They admit it's not a capitalist thing. What it is damaging to the American consumer. I don't have any problem with you profiting on your milk and your eggs, on your bread and your lettuce.
Yeah, that's capitalism. Profiting.
What I have a problem with is you taking advantage when people couldn't go to work and couldn't afford to live. And so what did you do? You pushed up the price of milk and eggs higher. Bread and lettuce higher.
Because what's anyone going to do?
And who's going to know? And we can say supply chain. That's not capitalism. That's not what that is. You know, and like that, come on. Fat old Mormon and dying. The problem isn't price gouging. They're adjusting for inflation to please their shareholders. The real problem is corporate price fixing, which is illegal. I think you can call it what you want.
Yeah.
Is there collusion? I have no idea.
Because it's illegal.
I have no idea. And I think now it's out there.
I don't put anything by him. Sure. Okay. Corruption, collusion. Wouldn't be surprised by any of it.
Does this preempt their merger with Albertsons?
I think it should.
I think it should. Why would we give you more influence when we already know you abuse it? You're getting tax breaks. You are taking advantage of the American consumer and getting tax breaks from the government. Why? Why would we allow that? It's so frustrating. Austin Davis. Kroger has announced they will be closing the Albertsons distribution center in Salt Lake City and closing all Lucky stores, which are under the Albertsons umbrella. Well, they got to get the merger first.
Yeah.
So
ducks in a row first.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah, it's infuriating.
Yeah, it is. The eye patch. We can disagree, Monty, but it also recouped for all the money they lost in 2020. But they did. That's what they're telling you. They didn't lose money in 2020.
Yeah, they never lost money because they were price gouging people.
They didn't They didn't lose money.
This is what I'm talking about. How is this so confusing?
You guys, they were doing this during the height of the pandemic. Do you understand? It's not now. They're doing this during the pandemic when people were struggling.
It. They're just now having to admit it because of the merger.
These are internal communications. They're just doing this now. This isn't something, or they're just finding out about it now, but they've been doing, they did this during the height of the pandemic. It's terrible. It's wild to me.
Yeah.
It's wild to me. Ted Abrams, in order for the merger to go through, Kroger has to sell some of the brands out from under Albertsons. Yeah, I don't think it'll go through. Eric and Raleigh, it's not confusing, Jake. It's willful ignorance. I think that plays a part in it.
Seriously.
I think that plays a part in it. I think you have to go after, and again, as I said yesterday, many states in this country have gouging laws. Nobody's looking to price cap anything. This is about protecting American consumers, and it is, yeah. Brandon Butler, they raised prices and ended up paying less to employees because non-essentials were kept home. It's sketchy. Yeah. Has anyone heard that it's a free market? Right, but it's not a free market. Okay, it's not a free market. Because as Jake was saying earlier, what happens when Albertsons, or excuse me, in this case, Kroger and their brands, raise their prices? Well, then Harmon's is going to raise their prices. It's not a free market. It's, in my opinion, you're better off farm to table than you are Kroger to table.
Seriously.
And it's,
but again, it's the classic scenario of people don't do their homework. Who's going to know? And furthermore, like you said, what's anyone going to do about it?
Yeah.
Like,
I think you cannot allow the Kroger Albertsons. Yes, exactly right. Price gouging is not free market, right? That's why the government is supposed to break up monopolies. There is no competition anymore. YouTube Rex says, why didn't Biden protect U.S. consumers? What do you think this is? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So his Federal Trade Commission, his Justice Department is not unearthing evidence of price gouging?
Who was president during the pandemic?
Exactly.
Who was president during the pandemic?
And I'm sure that's where you're going with it. Rich people are and companies. Communism for me, capitalism for thee. Well, yeah. All I'm saying is, this is not a Trump-Biden who's right and who's wrong. Nobody knew it was happening. And when you have the opportunity to peek behind their curtain, you do it. And when you want to merge and create the largest grocery chain in the world, essentially, that's when you start reading emails. And come on. It's wild to me that you want to blame this on Joe Biden. Oh my God, look at the tax code and then blame it on Joe Biden. This is what we can't do, you guys. Every conversation about some dude that took a dump on the sidewalk is not about Biden or Trump. This is not, well, why didn't Joe Biden do it? Okay, are you out of your mind? Like, are you out of your mind? I'm telling you that you have to understand this is how things get exposed. But when you deregulate and when you hand corporations and billionaires tax cuts, this is what they do. You lowered the corporate tax rate because that was supposed to create jobs. All it did was create an atmosphere where they bought back their stock and gave out large dividends and bonuses.
Yes.
They didn't create more jobs. You deregulated, and what happens when there's less oversight, which is what deregulation essentially means?
More profit taking. More.
It becomes the Wild West. That's what you're seeing here. So it's just, it is for me not about politics. Like you've got to stop looking at this as a Republican and Democrat thing and start looking at it as an American thing. When you come in and say it's Biden's fault, you're saying, okay, I'm good with paying higher prices. That's what you're saying. Because you want to blame Joe Biden, who is not the one that put the tax code into place. He's not the one that deregulated. He's not the one that attacked the Justice Department. It goes both ways. It makes me crazy. It makes me crazy. It is what Kroger has admitted to doing is not only price gouging, it's un-American.
Yeah, it's the worst of the worst.
We're damaging Americans purposefully for profit. Do you not get that? This is not this. You can't let this. You cannot let this stand. And in my opinion, you cannot allow the Kroger-Albertsons merger to happen. You cannot. And I'm just not interested. Like, my plan was not to talk politics today, and I'm not. I'm not interested in having it's Joe Biden's fault. I'm not interested.
Hey, you want
in
to
that.
talk about an easy button of an argument?
Like, it's one of the stupidest things that we always go to.
Yeah.
Hey, it's raining. Well, fucking Biden. It's his fault.
Yeah. Why didn't he control the chemtrails?
Bro, like, at least educate yourself. Right? Like, it is. We're in a spot now in this country where we have to make a dramatic shift away from demagogues and deities to Americans. Because the thing that you don't want to talk about is we don't have a good candidate for president. Do you understand how horribly flawed both of these candidates are? Do you not? Does that not register? Well, you're beating up on old man and Kamala Harris. Do you not understand that your guy is not the greatest? The last 10 days of Donald Trump versus the military has
Not
been
good.
less than ideal. They physically assaulted somebody at Arlington National and then posted photos of Donald Trump and his campaign staff with these Gold Star families. And Donald Trump is standing there with a thumbs up, smiling ear to ear in front of a grave. What are we doing? So we assaulted somebody who was enforcing the law. Is that Joe Biden's fault? No. Like, we don't have, neither of these candidates are good. They're not good. It's just, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. All right. There you go. Always sometimes a pleasure.
Yes.
Before we get to the non-sports stories. I didn't even get to talk about the burgers that were the worst for you. Will we show up here tomorrow in about 21 and a half hours with a Deion Sanders win? Can't wait for tomorrow. As always, the Monty Show presented by our good friends at The Advocates. TheAdvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.